Imagine stepping into a world where life and death were decided by the clash of swords and the roar of the crowd. Gladiators were not just fighters, they were symbols of power, fame, and the darker side of entertainment in ancient Rome. You might think you know their story, but the truth is far more complex. Today, we're going to unravel the entire history of gladiators, from their brutal beginnings to their unexpected celebrity status, and challenge everything you think you know. Gladiatorial fights began as part of funeral rites for elite Romans. What sparked the birth of these intense competitions? The first recorded gladiator games were held in 264 BCE, and they were initially intended to honor the dead by showcasing bravery. The idea was to celebrate the deceased's life through combat, turning tragedy into spectacle. As time passed, these somber rituals evolved into public entertainments, drawing massive crowds and reflecting the societal values of the time. This transition from somber to spectacular illustrates the complex relationship between death, honor, and entertainment in Roman culture. You might think all gladiators were slaves forced into brutal combat, but the reality is far more diverse. Gladiators came from various backgrounds, including prisoners of war, criminals, and even volunteers who sought fame and fortune. Some gladiators chose to fight to escape poverty or gain wealth and status. Their varied experiences and motivations shaped their identities in the arena and contributed to the complexity of their story. The truth about gladiators often challenges our assumptions about power dynamics in ancient Rome. So, what was daily life like for a gladiator? Gladiators lived in training schools known as ludi, where they honed their skills and prepared for the brutal arena. Their training was grueling and designed to prepare them for combat, pushing them to their physical limits. Within these schools, gladiators formed strong bonds with their fellow fighters, creating a unique camaraderie. Understanding their lives reveals the complexities of their existence, illustrating that they were not just fighters, but individuals with aspirations, fears, and relationships. How did gladiators become skilled fighters? The training regimen involved various combat techniques and the use of multiple weapons, ensuring that each gladiator was well prepared for the challenges of the arena. This rigorous training often led to injuries, testing their resilience and determination. Success in training was crucial for survival in the arena, as only the best fighters could secure their place and earn the respect of the crowd. The commitment and dedication shown by gladiators illustrate the lengths they would go to in pursuit of glory and survival. What was it like to watch a gladiatorial fight? The arena was a vibrant spectacle, filled with thousands of spectators who created an electric atmosphere. Gladiators entered the arena amidst cheers, facing a mix of fear and adrenaline as they prepared to fight. Spectators often placed bets on the outcomes of the matches, adding a layer of excitement and engagement to the event. The thrill of the arena was captivating but also unsettling, reflecting the complex relationship between entertainment and violence in Roman society. Contrary to popular belief, not every fight ended in death. How deadly were gladiatorial fights really? Gladiators were valuable assets, and many were spared for future battles, highlighting a level of strategic thinking behind the games. The arena had rules that dictated how fights were conducted, ensuring a semblance of control over the chaos. Medical care was available for injured gladiators, showcasing the complex system that surrounded these brutal spectacles. This nuanced understanding of gladiatorial combat reveals that it was more than just mindless slaughter. It was a carefully orchestrated form of entertainment. Who controlled the fate of gladiators? The editor was the official responsible for the games, making critical decisions about matchups and fight conditions. Their role was essential in shaping the narrative of each event, often balancing public desires with the value of gladiators. An editor's decisions could lead to unexpected and dramatic outcomes, demonstrating the intricate dynamics at play in the arena. This insight into the editorial process unveils the often overlooked structure behind the chaos of gladiatorial combat. How did the crowd impact gladiatorial battles? The audience played a significant role in determining the fate of the gladiators, often swaying the editor's decisions with their reactions. Spectators could call for mercy or death, creating an unpredictable environment. A gladiator's popularity could mean the difference between life and death after a fight, illustrating the strong emotional connections that formed between the audience and certain fighters. This interplay between gladiators and spectators adds a rich layer to the overall narrative of the games. Did gladiators become the celebrities of their time? Surprisingly, successful gladiators gained immense popularity and attracted dedicated fan bases. They received endorsements, participated in public events, and had fan clubs similar to modern sports stars. Their status reflected Rome's fascination with combat and heroism, challenging traditional views of gladiatorial life. This celebrity status shows that, despite their brutal existence, gladiators could achieve a level of fame and admiration that was rarely afforded to others in Roman society. Why did gladiatorial games eventually fade away? The rise of Christianity marked a significant shift in societal values, leading to a re-evaluation of violence and entertainment. Public sentiment gradually shifted towards more humane forms of amusement, and economic factors also contributed to the decline of the games. Understanding this transition reveals the changing cultural values in Rome and offers insight into how society evolved over time. This decline of gladiatorial combat signifies the end of an era and highlights the complexities of human entertainment. What impact did gladiators have on modern culture? culture. Gladiators have left a lasting legacy that continues to inspire films, books, and television shows today. Their stories symbolize both brutality and heroism, resonating deeply with contemporary audiences. Gladiators serve as a bridge connecting ancient Rome to modern discussions about fame, sacrifice, and the nature of entertainment. This enduring influence emphasizes the complexity of their existence and the lasting impressions they have made on popular culture. What myths surround gladiators? Many people believe gladiatorial fights were purely about death and violence, but the reality is far more nuanced. Involvement in the games included strategy, entertainment, and even camaraderie among fighters. Understanding these misconceptions helps paint a fuller picture of gladiators' lives, highlighting their roles as individuals rather than mere combat. Debunking these myths enriches your knowledge of ancient history and reveals the complexities of gladiatorial life. How have gladiators been portrayed in modern films and literature? Gladiators often symbolize bravery and rebellion in popular culture, making them compelling figures in storytelling. Movies like Gladiator romanticize their struggles and victories, influencing how audiences perceive ancient Rome. Analyzing these media representations reveals modern interpretations of history, shedding light on the enduring fascination with gladiators in our collective consciousness. This cultural lens highlights how history continues to shape our narratives today. What ethical questions arise from gladiatorial games? The ethics of violence and entertainment are central to this discussion, prompting deep reflection. Gladiatorial combat raises important questions about consent, exploitation, and the nature of entertainment in society. These debates resonate in modern society, encouraging individuals to engage critically with the past. Engaging with these philosophical aspects fosters a deeper understanding of history and the moral complexities inherent in human behavior. What was the involvement of women in gladiatorial combat? Female gladiators, though rare, challenged traditional gender roles in ancient Rome. Their presence in the arena revealed complexities in Roman society and opened discussions about women's roles in a predominantly male-dominated space. Historical records provide insight into their lives and battles, showcasing their bravery and skill. Understanding their role adds depth to the narrative of gladiatorial combat and highlights the often overlooked contributions of women in history. How were gladiatorial games used politically? Gladiatorial games served as a tool for emperors to distract the public from pressing political issues. These events acted as a demonstration of power, allowing leaders to assert control over life and death. Gladiators became pawns in the larger game of political maneuvering, showcasing the intricate relationship between entertainment and governance. Analyzing this connection unveils the darker sides of entertainment in ancient Rome. What were the training schools like for gladiators? Gladiators lived and trained in specialized facilities known as ludi, where they focused on combat skills and physical fitness. These schools fostered camaraderie among fighters, as they trained together and supported each other through rigorous schedules. Exploring these schools highlights the gladiators' lives beyond the arena, revealing their aspirations and struggles. Understanding their training environments offers a more nuanced perspective on their experiences. Did gladiators have a code of honor? Surprisingly, many gladiators followed unwritten rules and ethics within the arena. Their sense of honor influenced their conduct during fights and in their relationships with fellow fighters. This code added complexity to their identities, showcasing that they were more than mere entertainers. Understanding their principles offers insight into their character and motivations, revealing the depth of their existence. Now that you've explored the entire history of gladiators, from their origins to their lasting legacy, you can appreciate the complexities of their lives. You've learned how gladiators were not just fighters but also symbols of power and entertainment, and their story continues to resonate today. Did you know that not all gladiators were slaves? This common misconception often oversimplifies the rich and diverse backgrounds of these ancient fighters. In fact, gladiators came from various walks of life, including free men who volunteered for the thrill of fame and fortune. Some sought a better life, while others fought for their very survival. The truth about gladiators often challenges our assumptions and reveals a complex social structure in ancient Rome. While many gladiators were indeed slaves or prisoners of war, others were volunteers who willingly entered the arena, seeking glory and recognition. These free gladiators often had a choice, contrasting sharply with the idea of helpless victims forced into combat. Imagine standing in the Colosseum, where these brave souls chose to fight for their place in history, transforming their lives in the process. This dynamic background not only shaped their experiences, but also influenced how they were perceived by society. The life of a gladiator was both challenging and thrilling. Most lived in training schools known as ludi, where they honed their skills and prepared for the brutal battles ahead. These training facilities were intense and required a high level of discipline and physical fitness. Gladiators were subjected to rigorous training, designed to mold them into formidable fighters. This was not just a job, it was a way of life that demanded commitment and resilience. Within the ludi, gladiators formed strong bonds with their fellow fighters. They shared the same struggles, fears, and aspirations, creating a unique camaraderie that transcended their circumstances. This sense of brotherhood became essential for survival in the arena, where the stakes were high and the dangers were real. Understanding the daily lives of gladiators reveals that they were not just warriors. They were also part of a community that fought together for respect and honor. So, how did gladiators become skilled fighters? Their training involved mastering various combat techniques and learning to wield multiple weapons. The intensity of their practice sessions often led to injuries, pushing them to their physical limits. Success in training was crucial for survival, as only the most skilled fighters could secure their place and earn the respect of both their peers and the audience. This rigorous preparation made gladiators formidable opponents, capable of captivating crowds with their skill and bravery. Watching a gladiatorial fight was an experience like no other. The arena was filled with thousands of spectators, all eagerly awaiting the clash of steel and the display of strength. Gladiators entered the arena to the sound of roaring cheers, facing the dual pressures of fear and adrenaline. Spectators often placed bets on the outcomes of the matches, adding an extra layer of excitement to the event. The thrill of the arena was intoxicating, reflecting a complex relationship between entertainment and violence in Roman society. Contrary to popular belief, not every fight ended in death. Gladiatorial battles were often more strategic than brutal, with many fighters spared for future contests. Gladiators were valuable assets, and the arena had rules governing how fights were conducted. Medical care was available for those who were injured, indicating that there was a structured system behind the apparent chaos of the games. This nuanced understanding of combat challenges the perception that gladiatorial fights were merely spectacles of slaughter. The fate of the gladiators was often controlled by an official known as the editor. The editor was responsible for overseeing the games, deciding which gladiators fought and the conditions under which they battled. Their decisions could lead to dramatic and unexpected outcomes, highlighting the power dynamics at play in the arena. Balancing public desires with the welfare of gladiators was a critical aspect of this role, showcasing the complex interplay between entertainment and governance in ancient Rome. The audience played a significant role in gladiatorial battles. Spectators could sway the editor's decisions with their cries for mercy or death, directly impacting the fate of the fighters. A gladiator's popularity could mean life or death after a fight, underscoring the emotional connections that developed between the crowd and certain fighters. This dynamic added an unpredictable element to the games, making each match not just a battle of strength but also a test of the gladiators' ability to connect with the crowd. Did gladiators become the celebrities of their time? Surprisingly, yes. Successful gladiators enjoyed immense popularity, garnering dedicated fan bases akin to modern sports stars. They received endorsements, participated in public events, and even had fan clubs. Their status reflected Rome's fascination with combat and heroism, challenging traditional views of gladiatorial life. This celebrity status illustrates that despite their often brutal existence, gladiators could achieve a level of fame and admiration that was rare in Roman society. But why did gladiatorial games eventually fade away? The rise of Christianity played a significant role in changing societal values, leading to a re-evaluation of violence and entertainment. Public sentiment began to shift towards more humane forms of amusement, causing the games to lose their appeal. Economic factors also contributed to this decline, as the costs associated with hosting grand events became increasingly burdensome. Understanding this transition provides insight into how societal attitudes towards violence and entertainment evolved over time. What impact did gladiators have on modern culture? Their stories continue to inspire films, books, and television shows today. Gladiators symbolize both brutality and heroism, resonating with audiences across generations. Their legacy connects ancient Rome to contemporary discussions about fame, sacrifice, and the nature of entertainment. And this enduring influence emphasizes the complexity of their existence and serves as a reminder of the powerful narratives that emerge from history. Many myths surround gladiators, leading to misunderstandings about their lives. While many believe gladiatorial fights were purely about death and violence, the reality is far more nuanced. Gladiatorial combat involved strategy, entertainment, and even camaraderie among fighters. Understanding these misconceptions helps paint a fuller picture of their lives, illustrating that gladiators were individuals with their own dreams and aspirations. Debunking these myths enriches your knowledge of ancient history and the realities of gladiatorial life. How have gladiators been portrayed in modern films and literature? They often symbolize bravery and rebellion in popular culture, making them compelling figures in storytelling. Movies like Gladiator romanticize their struggles and victories, influencing how audiences perceive ancient Rome. Analyzing these media representations reveals modern interpretations of history, shedding light on the enduring fascination with gladiators in our collective consciousness. This cultural lens highlights how history continues to shape our narratives today. What ethical questions arise from gladiatorial games? The ethics of violence and entertainment come into play in this discussion, prompting deep reflection. Gladiatorial combat raises important questions about consent, exploitation, and the nature of entertainment in society. These debates resonate in modern society, encouraging individuals to engage critically with the past. Engaging with these philosophical aspects fosters a deeper understanding of history and the moral complexities inherent in human behavior. What was the involvement of women in gladiatorial combat? Female gladiators, though rare, challenged traditional gender roles in ancient Rome. Their presence in the arena revealed complexities in Roman society and opened discussions about women's roles gladiators in a predominantly male-dominated space. Historical records provide insight into their lives and battles, showcasing their bravery and skill. Understanding their role adds depth to the narrative of gladiatorial combat and highlights the often overlooked contributions of women in history. How were gladiatorial games used politically? Gladiatorial games served as a tool for emperors to distract the public from pressing political issues. These events acted as a demonstration of power, allowing leaders to assert control over life and death. Gladiators became pawns in the larger game of political maneuvering, showcasing the intricate relationship between entertainment and governance. Analyzing this connection unveils the darker sides of entertainment in ancient Rome. What were the training schools like for gladiators? Gladiators lived and trained in specialized facilities known as ludi, where they focused on combat skills and physical fitness. These schools fostered camaraderie among fighters as they trained together and supported each other through rigorous schedules. Exploring these schools highlights the gladiators' lives beyond the arena, revealing their aspirations and struggles. Understanding their training environments offers a more nuanced perspective on their experiences. Did gladiators have a code of honor? Surprisingly, many gladiators followed unwritten rules and ethics within the arena. Their sense of honor influenced their conduct during fights and in their relationships with fellow fighters. This code added complexity to their identities, showcasing that they were more than mere entertainers. Understanding their principles offers insight into their character and motivations, revealing the depth of their existence. Now that you've explored the entire history of gladiators, from their origins to their lasting legacy, you can appreciate the complexities of their lives. You've learned how gladiators were not just fighters but also symbols of power and entertainment, and their story continues to resonate today. What was daily life like for a gladiator? It's a question that leads us into the heart of their world, revealing a life filled with challenges, camaraderie, and a constant struggle for survival. Gladiators lived in specialized training schools called ludi. These were not just places of harsh discipline, they were the arenas where future stars were forged and bonds of brotherhood were formed. In the ludi, gladiators underwent rigorous training designed to prepare them for the brutal reality of the arena. Their daily routines were demanding, involving hours of physical training and practice in combat techniques. This was not just a job, it was a commitment to their craft that required immense physical and mental resilience. Imagine waking up each day to the sound of clashing swords and the smell of sweat, knowing that every hour spent training could mean the difference between life and death in the arena. A strange fact about gladiators is that many of them were incredibly fit, often healthier than the average Roman citizen. This might surprise you given the violent nature of their profession. While society often viewed gladiators as expendable, the reality was that a well-trained gladiator was a valuable asset. Their lives revolved around preparing for the next fight, showcasing not just physical prowess but also skill and strategy. Training was not just about learning how to fight, it also involved developing a unique camaraderie among fellow gladiators. These fighters shared their hopes, fears, and dreams, forging friendships that could last a lifetime. In a world where trust was scarce, these bonds became vital for their emotional survival. They would train together, spar with one another, and support each other through the grueling process. This brotherhood would often be their only family, offering a sense of belonging in an otherwise harsh existence. However, understanding the lives of gladiators reveals the complexities of their existence. Many gladiators were not just fighters, they were individuals with dreams, ambitions, and stories. Some entered the arena seeking fame, while others fought simply for the chance to survive another day. This diversity of experiences is often overshadowed by the more sensational aspects of gladiatorial combat. In the arena, gladiators faced not just their opponents but also the crowd's judgment. The pressure to perform was immense, as the audience's reaction could mean the difference between life and death. Imagine stepping into the arena, adrenaline pumping through your veins, knowing that thousands of spectators are watching your every move. The roar of the crowd, the scent of blood and sweat, and the weight of their expectations all bore down on these fighters. It was a thrilling yet terrifying experience. The arena was filled with danger and uncertainty, but it was also where gladiators could earn their freedom and achieve legendary status. Victorious gladiators could gain wealth, fame, and the adoration of the masses. However, the price of this glory was steep. Every fight could be their last, and the stakes were high. Gladiators were constantly reminded that their lives depended on their ability to entertain and survive. Now, you might be wondering how gladiators became such skilled fighters. The answer lies in their intense training regimens. Gladiators practiced various combat techniques, learning to wield different weapons and adapt to their opponents' fighting styles. This training was essential, as the arena was not just a battleground but a stage where the fighters displayed their artistry and prowess. Training sessions were grueling, pushing gladiators to their physical limits. Injuries were common, but resilience was key. Gladiators learned to embrace pain as part of their preparation, fostering a mental toughness that would serve them well in the arena. Success in training meant not only survival but also the possibility of becoming a champion, celebrated by the crowd and revered by fellow fighters. A captivating aspect of the arena experience was the thrill that came with each fight. The roar of the crowd, the clash of swords, and the adrenaline rush created an atmosphere like no other. Gladiators entered the arena to thunderous applause, feeling both excitement and trepidation as they prepared to face their opponents. The thrill of the fight fight was palpable, but so was the fear of defeat. Contrary to popular belief, not every fight ended in death. Gladiatorial combat was often more strategic than brutal, with many gladiators spared for future battles. The reality of the arena was nuanced, reflecting a complex system that prioritized entertainment alongside survival. Medical care was available for injured gladiators, showcasing the sophistication of the gladiatorial culture. The arena had its own rules, and fighters learned to navigate them skillfully. Understanding the dynamics of combat was crucial, as it often dictated the outcomes of fights. Gladiators who displayed impressive skills could earn their freedom, while those who failed to impress risked facing the crowd's wrath. The pressure to perform and entertain was ever present, creating a high-stakes environment that shaped their lives. So, who controlled the fate of gladiators? This is where the role of the editor comes into play. The editor was in charge of the games, making crucial decisions about matchups and fight conditions. Their choices could lead to unexpected outcomes, showcasing the unpredictability of gladiatorial combat. Balancing public desires with the welfare of gladiators was a critical role, demonstrating the intricate power dynamics at play. The editor's influence shaped the narrative of each event, often blurring the lines between combat and spectacle. They were responsible for crafting the stories that unfolded in the arena, deciding who would fight, who would live, and who would die. This power over life and death added a dramatic layer to the games, captivating audiences and leaving them eager for more. As we delve deeper into the audience's influence on gladiatorial battles, you'll discover just how much power the crowd held. Spectators could sway the editor's decisions with their cries for mercy or death, directly impacting the fate of the fighters. A gladiator's popularity could mean life or death after a fight, adding an unpredictable element to the games. This relationship between the crowd and gladiators illustrates the emotional connections formed during fights. Spectators developed favorites, rooting for particular fighters and feeling a sense of camaraderie with them. The audience's reactions could significantly impact a gladiator's career, demonstrating the profound interplay between performer and spectator. In the end, gladiators became the celebrities of their time. Many achieved immense popularity, drawing dedicated fan bases that rivaled those of modern sports stars. They received endorsements and had fan clubs, reflecting Rome's fascination with combat and heroism. This celebrity status challenges traditional views of gladiatorial life, emphasizing that these fighters were not merely expendable but rather pivotal figures in their society. As we explore the decline of gladiatorial games, you'll discover why they eventually faded from public life. The rise of Christianity played a significant role in changing societal values, leading to a re-evaluation of violence and entertainment. Public sentiment began shifting towards more humane forms of amusement, marking a turning point in the history of gladiatorial combat. Understanding this transition reveals the changing cultural values in Rome and how they influenced entertainment. The decline of gladiatorial games illustrates a society grappling with its past and moving toward a more compassionate future. Now that you've learned about the lives of gladiators, their struggles, and their ultimate impact on society, you can appreciate the complexities of their existence. Gladiators were not just fighters, they were symbols of power and entertainment whose stories continue to resonate today. As we explore their legacy, you'll see how their influence persists in modern culture, connecting us to the past in surprising ways. How did gladiators become the skilled fighters we read about in history? The training regimen they followed was grueling and designed to prepare them for the brutal reality of the arena. Gladiators practiced various combat techniques and learned to use multiple weapons, honing their skills day in and day out. You might think that training was all about brute strength, but the truth is far more complex. One fascinating aspect of gladiatorial training is that it was often tailored to the individual's strengths and weaknesses. Some gladiators excelled in swordsmanship, others specialized in grappling or using specific weapons like the trident or net. This specialization added a strategic layer to their training, making each fighter a unique asset in the arena. A strange fact about gladiators is that they were often healthier than the average Roman citizen. Despite the violence associated with their profession, gladiators maintained strict diets and rigorous exercise routines that kept them in peak physical condition. This might seem counterintuitive given their dangerous line of work, but in a way, their survival depended on their fitness and resilience. Training often led to injuries, testing gladiators' mental and physical endurance. Imagine enduring the pain of a broken rib or a gash on your arm, only to be pushed back into training the next day. This relentless cycle forged not only their bodies but also their minds. Gladiators had to develop a tough mentality, learning to embrace the pain and use it as motivation to improve. Success in training was crucial for survival in the arena. Gladiators who were better trained had higher chances of winning their fights, which could mean the difference between life and death. As a result, the ludi, or training schools, became highly competitive environments. Fighters were constantly pushed to outdo each other, forming a culture of excellence and camaraderie. The rigorous preparation made gladiators formidable opponents. Their skills were not merely a product of brute force. They were a combination of strategy, endurance, and technique. Each fight was a calculated dance of tactics, where a well-timed move could mean the difference between victory and defeat. The arena was a stage, and gladiators were both performers and warriors. Another intriguing aspect of their training was the bond that formed among the gladiators. They spent countless countless hours together, training, eating, and even recovering from injuries. This unique camaraderie provided emotional support in a high-pressure environment, allowing them to share their fears and aspirations. These relationships often lasted a lifetime, becoming their chosen family. Gladiators were not just fighters, they were also entertainers. As they honed their skills, they learned to perform for the crowd, embracing the role of the hero or villain. This element of showmanship added an additional layer of complexity to their training. Gladiators had to engage the audience, captivating them with their performances while also focusing on the fight itself. The rigorous training regimen didn't just prepare them for combat, it shaped their identities. Many gladiators took pride in their skills and achievements, viewing their craft as an art form. They weren't just fighting for survival, they were crafting a legacy that would resonate throughout history. Now let's delve deeper into the arena experience. The excitement and tension in the air were palpable, drawing thousands of spectators who came to witness the clash of swords and the roar of the crowd. The arena was not just a venue, it was a grand spectacle where life and death unfolded before their eyes. Imagine stepping into the arena filled with people, some cheering, others holding their breath in anticipation. The atmosphere was electric, charged with energy as gladiators entered the sandy pit, facing not only their opponents but also the weight of public expectations. Spectators could feel the adrenaline coursing through their veins as they prepared for the drama to unfold. The gladiators entered amidst cheers, facing fear and adrenaline. For many, the arena represented both an opportunity and a nightmare. While it was a chance for fame and glory, it was also a dangerous environment where the slightest mistake could cost them their lives. This duality kept both the fighters and the audience on edge, ensuring that every match was filled with tension. Spectators often bet on the outcomes of fights, adding a layer of excitement that turned each battle into a spectacle. The stakes were high, and the crowd's reactions could sway the course of events. A gladiator's fate was often decided not just by their skill, but also by how well they played to the crowd. The thrill of the arena was captivating yet unsettling. The spectacle of blood and combat became a form of entertainment that reflected the darker side of Roman society. Many people flocked to the games, eager to witness the violence that was both horrifying and mesmerizing. Contrary to popular belief, not every fight ended in death. Gladiators were valuable assets, and it made more sense economically to preserve them for future battles. The arena had rules, and there was a certain level of strategy involved in the fights. Many gladiators learned to adapt their fighting style based on their opponents, using tactics to outsmart them rather than relying solely on brute strength. Medical care was also available for injured gladiators, showcasing a complex system that operated behind the scenes. Although their lives were fraught with danger, they were not left to suffer in silence. This element adds another layer to the understanding of gladiatorial combat, revealing that the reality of these fights was often more nuanced than the bloody spectacle portrayed in popular culture. Who controlled the fate of these gladiators? Enter the editor, the person responsible for the games and their outcomes. The editor was a powerful figure, making critical decisions about matchups and fight conditions. They were the ones who could turn a fighter into a star or send them to their doom. This power significantly shaped the narrative of each event. The editor's decisions could lead to unexpected outcomes, thrilling the crowd and ensuring that each fight was a fresh spectacle. The balance of power between the editor and the gladiators illustrates the complexities of this ancient entertainment system. Now let's explore the audience's influence. How did the crowd impact gladiatorial battles? Spectators had a unique power, often swaying the editor's decisions with their shouts for mercy or death. A gladiator's popularity could mean life or death after a fight, creating an unpredictable atmosphere in the arena. Emotional connections formed between the audience and certain fighters, adding depth to the gladiatorial experience. Spectators rooted for their favorites, often feeling a sense of loyalty and pride. This relationship transformed the games into a more profound experience for both the fighters and the audience, blurring the lines between entertainment and personal investment. The thrill of the gladiatorial games was not just in the combat, but also in the emotional roller coaster it provided. The cheers, gasps, and cries of the crowd added to the drama, making each fight an unpredictable and gripping event. As we examine the lives of gladiators further, it's clear that they became celebrities in their own right. Successful gladiators gained immense popularity, drawing dedicated fans that rivaled those of modern sports stars. They received endorsements, had fan clubs, and enjoyed a level of fame that was rare for individuals of their status. This celebrity status challenges traditional views of gladiatorial life, illustrating that these fighters were not simply expendable, but rather pivotal figures in their society. Gladiators captured the imagination of the Roman populace, and their stories were shared throughout the empire, reflecting the complex nature of their existence. Now, as we continue to explore the gladiatorial games and their implications, consider how their legacy has endured through the ages. Gladiators were more than mere fighters. They were a reflection of societal values, fears, and fascinations. Their stories continue to resonate, reminding us of the complexities of human nature and the darker aspects of entertainment. The world of gladiators was fraught with danger, excitement, and a continuous struggle for survival. From their rigorous training regimens to the electric atmosphere of the arena, these fighters lived lives that were as captivating as they were brutal. As we unravel their history, you'll see just how deeply intertwined their fates were with the very fabric of Roman society. What was it like to watch a gladiatorial fight in ancient Rome? Imagine stepping into a massive arena, the sun glinting off the sand and the roar of the crowd surrounding you. You may think of it as just a brutal spectacle, but there's much more to the experience. The arena was filled with thousands of spectators, creating an electric atmosphere that was both thrilling and terrifying. One of the most surprising aspects of gladiatorial games is the sheer scale of the events. The Colosseum, for instance, could hold up to 50,000 spectators, all eager to witness the action. This wasn't just a show. It was a significant social event where people from all walks of life gathered, from wealthy patricians to common citizens. The anticipation in the air was palpable, as everyone awaited the entrance of the gladiators. When gladiators entered the arena, it wasn't just fear they faced. It was a mix of adrenaline and the desire for glory. Many gladiators were well aware of their audience and often played to the crowd, adopting personas that resonated with the spectators. It's fascinating to think that their performances could sway the public's opinion, affecting their fate in the arena. Spectators often bet on fights, adding an exciting layer to the experience. They didn't just cheer for their favorites, they had a vested interest in the outcomes. Imagine the tension as the crowd roared with excitement, shouting for blood or mercy. The bets placed on these fights often reflected deep-seated rivalries and loyalties, making each contest a battle not only of strength but of community pride. The thrill of the arena was captivating yet unsettling. The audience was thrilled by the spectacle of combat. They were also aware of the grim reality behind it. Gladiatorial fights were brutal and often resulted in serious injury or death. This duality, entertainment laced with horror, added to the complexity of the experience. It raises a controversial point. How could a society so captivated by violence also celebrate the fighters with such fervor? Interestingly, many spectators viewed gladiators as heroes, embodying bravery and resilience. They cheered for the fighters, who risked their lives for the entertainment of the masses. This sense of admiration complicates our understanding of the gladiatorial games. Most people assume gladiators were merely slaves forced to fight, but the reality was that they were often celebrated and revered figures within Roman society. Beyond the blood and gore, the games served as a form of escapism for the people. In a society plagued by political turmoil and social unrest, the arena provided a sense of unity and distraction. For those moments, as swords clashed and the dust flew, spectators could forget their troubles and immerse themselves in the spectacle. As we explore the experience further, it's essential to note how gladiatorial games reflected societal values. They were not merely barbaric contests. They embodied the Roman ideals of strength, honor, and courage. The very design of the arena and the rules governing the fights highlighted the complex interplay between entertainment and cultural identity. Now, consider the reality of combat. How deadly were gladiatorial fights really? Contrary to popular belief, not every fight ended in death. Gladiators were valuable assets, often spared for future battles. This reveals a hidden truth. The arena had rules that dictated how fights were conducted, adding an unexpected layer of strategy to the chaos. It's fascinating to learn that the life of a gladiator could often be saved by the editor's decision. Many fighters displayed incredible skills and resilience, which could earn them mercy in the heat of battle. Medical care was also available for injured gladiators, showcasing a complex system designed to preserve these fighters. While it may seem contradictory, this structure highlights the gladiators' status as entertainers and assets rather than mere victims. As we look into the role of the editor, we see another layer of complexity emerge. Who controlled the fate of these gladiators? The editor was in charge of the games, deciding matchups and conditions that could dramatically alter the course of events. Their decisions could lead to unexpected outcomes, revealing the intricate dance of power that defined the games. This balancing act between public desires and the value of the gladiators added an unpredictable element to the event. The editor's authority shaped the narrative of each match, often determining who would become a celebrated hero and who would fade into obscurity. The stakes were high, and the pressure to deliver a captivating spectacle was immense. How did the audience impact these gladiatorial battles? The crowd's voice could sway the editor's decisions, often leading to moments of intense drama. A gladiator's popularity could mean the difference between life and death, creating an emotional investment for both the fighters and the spectators. The emotional connections formed between the audience and certain fighters added depth to the gladiatorial experience. Fans often rallied behind their favorites, creating a culture of loyalty that transcended the brutality of the fights. This dynamic transformed the games into a more profound spectacle, where personal stories intertwined with the public drama. Now, let's explore the rise of gladiators as celebrities. Did gladiators become the stars of their time? Successful gladiators gained immense popularity and often had dedicated fan bases, drawing parallels to modern sports stars. They received endorsements and even had fan clubs, demonstrating how their fame reached far beyond the arena. This celebrity status challenges traditional views of gladiatorial life, illustrating that these fighters were not merely expendable, but rather pivotal figures in Roman society. Gladiators captured the imagination of the populace, their stories shared across the empire. They were not just fighters, they were symbols of strength and resilience, echoing the values of Roman culture. As we delve deeper into the gladiatorial games, it's essential to consider their lasting impact. The legacy of gladiators extends beyond the conquest confines of the arena, influencing modern culture in numerous ways. Their stories continue to inspire films, literature, and discussions about fame and sacrifice. In summary, the world of gladiators was one of danger, excitement, and a continuous struggle for survival. From their rigorous training regimens to the electric atmosphere of the arena, these fighters lived lives that were as captivating as they were brutal. As we unravel their history, you can see just how deeply intertwined their fates were with the very fabric of Roman society, shaping not only their lives but also the culture of an entire empire. How deadly were gladiatorial fights really? This question often comes to mind when we think about the fierce battles in the arena. Most people envision a brutal spectacle where every fight ends in bloodshed, but the reality is much more nuanced. Contrary to popular belief, not every combat encounter resulted in death. Gladiators were valuable assets, often spared for future battles, leading us to explore the deeper truths behind these bloody contests. The first surprising insight is that many fights were designed to entertain, not necessarily to kill. The arena had rules that dictated how fights were conducted, similar to modern sports. Gladiators were trained to fight with skill and strategy, which meant that not every encounter ended in a life or death situation. This carefully managed combat allowed for the preservation of skilled fighters who could entertain crowds again and again. It's intriguing to consider how the audience played a role in the outcome of these fights. The decisions made by the editor, the person in charge of the games, often determined whether a gladiator lived or died. The editor would assess the fighter's skills, the crowd's reactions, and the overall spectacle they aimed to create. They wanted to ensure the crowd was entertained, which could mean sparing a popular gladiator who showed exceptional skill or bravery. This leads us to an unexpected fact: the presence of medical care in the arena. Yes, gladiators received medical attention for injuries sustained during fights. This level of care reflects the complex nature of the gladiatorial system. While the fights were brutal, there was also an understanding of the gladiators' value, both as entertainers and as skilled warriors. Medical personnel were on hand to treat injuries and get gladiators back into fighting shape, showcasing a structured support system within the chaos of the arena. However, this doesn't mean gladiators were not subject to extreme violence. Some battles were deadly, especially when the stakes were high or when the editor wanted to make a statement. It's essential to recognize that the thrill of combat and the desire for bloodshed coexisted with rules and regulations. This paradox highlights the tension between entertainment and ethics, which remains a topic of discussion today. Most people think of gladiators as mere pawns in a game of death, but they were often celebrated for their skills and bravery. This duality in their lives can make one ponder: how can a society be so captivated by violence while simultaneously honoring those who engage in it? Gladiators were not just fighters, they were symbols of strength and endurance, representing the values of Roman society. While a reality of combat may not always align with the popular narrative of gruesome bloodshed, it's essential to appreciate the complexities of these events. Gladiatorial fights were multifaceted affairs, blending sport, entertainment, and social commentaries. As we delve deeper, we uncover that some gladiators became celebrities, celebrated not only for their combat prowess, but also for their ability to connect with the audience. They became icons, embodying Roman virtues of bravery and strength while navigating the dangerous waters of public opinion and survival. Understanding the reality of gladiatorial combat reveals layers of meaning beyond the bloodshed. These fights were spectacles that entertained the masses while simultaneously questioning societal values and ethics. Gladiators captured the imaginations of the people, and their stories remain powerful narratives of courage and resilience, even to this day. As we consider the intricacies of gladiatorial fights, it becomes clear that they were much more than simple acts of violence. They were performances that highlighted human bravery and the struggle for survival within a highly structured system. Each fight told a story, inviting the audience to reflect on their own lives and values while being entertained. So, how did the arena shape these fighters' identities? The harsh reality of their existence forced them to adapt, forging bonds with fellow gladiators and honing their skills for survival. These experiences shaped their lives, creating a brotherhood born out of shared struggles and the relentless pursuit of glory in the face of danger. In summary, the reality of combat in the gladiatorial arena is complex and layered. Gladiators were not just fighters, they were symbols of Roman society's values and contradictions. As we explore their lives further, we can gain insight into how they navigated the challenges of fame, survival, and the brutal world of the arena. Their legacy continues to resonate, inviting us to reflect on our perceptions of entertainment, violence, and humanity itself. Who controlled the fate of gladiators? This question might seem simple, but the answer is as complex as the lives of the fighters themselves. At the heart of gladiatorial games was the editor, the official responsible for organizing the events and determining the outcomes of each bout. Most people think of the editor as just a figure of authority, but their role was crucial in shaping the narratives and spectacles that defined ancient Rome. Let's delve into this fascinating world. The editor had immense power over the games, deciding matchups and the conditions under which gladiators would fight. Imagine a crowded arena filled with thousands of eager spectators, all waiting to see who would emerge victorious. The editor's decisions could lead to unexpected and dramatic outcomes, as they balanced the public's desire for thrilling entertainment with the value of each gladiator. And one unusual aspect of the editor's role well as how they had to be mindful of the gladiators' popularity. A well-liked fighter could sway the crowd's emotions, making the editor's job even more complicated. For instance, if a gladiator performed exceptionally well in the arena, the editor might be pressured to spare their life for future spectacles. This delicate dance between the editor and the gladiators highlights the unpredictable nature of the game. Here's an interesting fact: the title of editor wasn't fixed. It could be held by various officials, including wealthy citizens or politicians. This meant that the quality of the games could vary greatly depending on who was in charge. Some editors were dedicated to providing thrilling contests, while others were more concerned with their own political ambitions. This inconsistency affected not only the gladiators, but also the audience's experience. Now let's consider the darker side of this power. Editors had to maintain control over the arena at all costs. This often meant making decisions that prioritized the entertainment value over the gladiators' safeties. If a gladiator became too popular or began to threaten the established order, an editor might orchestrate a more dangerous matchup to ensure that the fighter's winning streak was curtailed. The thrill of the fight was always tempered by the risk of betrayal. What about the aftermath of these decisions? Gladiators who lost their battles faced uncertain fates. Some were executed, while others might find themselves spared due to their previous performances or the crowd's support. The editor's choices shaped not only the immediate outcomes of fights, but also the long-term careers of the gladiators involved. The ever-present risk of death loomed over every contest, which added a layer of tension to each event. Here's a controversial point. Some might argue that the gladiators, despite being slaves or prisoners, often had more agency than we typically assumed. They could influence their fate through their performances, garnering public support that forced editors to reconsider their options. This power dynamic complicates our understanding of the gladiatorial experience, challenging the notion that these fighters were mere pawns in a brutal game. Consider the camaraderie formed among gladiators. They supported each other both in and out of the arena, often forming bonds that transcended the brutal circumstances they faced. This fellowship created a unique subculture within the confines of the ludus, the training schools where gladiators prepared for battle. They shared strategies and techniques which could change the outcome of fights and impact the editor's decisions as well. In summary, the role of the editor was one of complexity and contradiction. They wielded the power to decide life or death, spectacle or silence, yet they were also beholden to the whims of the crowd and the fighters themselves. Understanding this role not only sheds light on the nature of gladiatorial combat, but also invites us to consider the broader implications of power dynamics in any society. Now, the editor's influence was a crucial part of the gladiatorial games, blending entertainment with a raw display of human will and resilience. As we move forward, keep in mind that the arena not just a stage for battles. It was a reflection of Roman society itself. The decisions made by editors were intertwined with politics, public sentiment, and the complex relationships between gladiators and their audiences. Each match told a story, and the role of the editor was central to that narrative. How did the crowd impact gladiatorial battles? It's a question that opens the door to understanding one of the most electrifying aspects of Roman entertainment. Most people think that the power lay solely in the hands of the editor, but the reality is that the audience played a crucial role in shaping the events that unfolded in the arena. Picture this: thousands of spectators packed into the Colosseum, their voices echoing as they cheered for their favorite fighters. The atmosphere was electric, filled with anticipation. The roar of the crowd could sway the editor's decision, turning the tide of a gladiator's fate in an instant. This dynamic relationship between the audience and the fighters is what made the gladiatorial games a unique spectacle in ancient Rome. Spectators held the power to influence the outcome of fights with their cries for mercy or death. Imagine a gladiator fighting valiantly but faltering at a crucial moment. The crowd's reaction could mean the difference between life and death. Simple shout of habit, meaning he has it, could spare a defeated fighter, while a deafening call for death could seal his fate. This connection created an unpredictable and thrilling atmosphere that kept everyone on the edge of their seats. Here's a strange yet fascinating fact: the crowd sometimes decided the fate of gladiators not just based on their performance, but also based on their appearance or the stories they told. A gladiator who looked strong and fierce could gain favor quickly, while a less imposing figure might have to fight harder for their life. The gladiators' backgrounds and personal narratives influenced public perception. Some were celebrated heroes, while others were mere fodder for entertainment. This distinction added another layer of drama to each contest. What about the emotional connections formed between the audience and specific fighters? Spectators often developed favorites, much like modern sports fans. This emotional investment could turn a simple match into a gripping narrative. Gladiators who performed daring acts or showcased extraordinary skill could become beloved figures. Their victories were celebrated, while their defeats were mourned. This emotional bond not only elevated the fighter's status, but also made the events more engaging for the audience. Now let's delve into a controversial aspect of this dynamic. While the crowd had immense influence, their demands could also lead to unethical decisions. Spectators sometimes reveled in brutality, expecting gladiators to fight to the death for their entertainment. This gruesome desire for spectacle often overshadowed the lives of the fighters involved. It's a stark reminder of the darker side of human nature, the craving for violence in the name of entertainment. Consider this: gladiatorial games weren't just about the fights. They were social events events that reflected the values and attitudes of Roman society. They brought together people from all walks of life, creating a shared experience that transcended social classes. However, this unity was often built on a foundation of violence and bloodshed. The thrill of the games was infectious, yet it masked the underlying moral complexities of such entertainment. Another intriguing factor was the role of women in the audience. Women were not merely passive spectators. They actively participated in the games, forming their own opinions and preferences about the gladiators. In a society often dominated by men, women's voices contributed to the crowd dynamics, shaping the fates of fighters just as much as their male counterparts. This nuance adds an additional layer to our understanding of the gladiatorial games. To summarize, the audience's influence on gladiatorial battles was profound and multifaceted. From their vocal support to their emotional investment, spectators shaped the narratives within the arena. Their desires for entertainment often collided with ethical considerations, revealing the complex relationship between the fighters and the public. This dynamic not only highlights the gladiators' struggles for survival, but also serves as a mirror reflecting the values and challenges of Roman society. As we continue our journey through the history of gladiators, keep in mind that the arena was a stage for much more than mere combat. It was a battleground for power, identity, and social dynamics. The interplay between gladiators and the audience encapsulates the complexities of life and death in ancient Rome, weaving a rich tapestry of stories that continues to resonate today. Did gladiators become the celebrities of their time? It's a question that delves into the fascinating intersection of fame, power, and the brutal entertainment industry of ancient Rome. Most people think gladiators were merely pawns in a violent game, but the reality is far more complex. Successful gladiators were revered figures, akin to modern sports stars. Imagine walking through the bustling streets of Rome, where the sounds of merchants hawking their wares blend with the echoes of cheers from the arena. Posters depicting famous gladiators adorned the walls, showcasing their victories and heroic deeds. Much like today's athletes, these fighters had fan clubs, and their exploits were the talk of the town. However, this celebrity status came with its own set of challenges and expectations. Successful gladiators were not only fighters, they were also symbols of valor and masculinity. Their lives were marked by the duality of glory and danger. A strange fact that might surprise you is that some gladiators could amass wealth, earning significant sums through sponsorships and endorsements from wealthy patrons. While many lived in the shadow of death, others thrived, collecting winnings from betting and even receiving gifts from admirers. This system created a complex dynamic where fame could lead to fortune, but it also left them vulnerable to the whims of public opinion. Consider this controversial perspective. While we often romanticize gladiatorial combat, it's essential to recognize that their celebrity was built on the very violence that defined their existence. Spectators sought blood and drama, demanding nothing less than spectacular performances. A gladiator's popularity could hinge on their ability to entertain, which often meant engaging in life-threatening battles for the crowd's amusement. This expectation for sensationalism placed immense pressure on them to continually outperform their rivals, turning their very survival into a spectacle. Diving deeper into the dynamics of fame, we must acknowledge that not all gladiators enjoyed equal status. Some, known as retired gladiators, gained a different kind of fame after they hung up their weapons. They became trainers or public figures, leveraging their past experiences for a second act in life. However, the stark reality remained. Many fighters faced the constant threat of death or injury, a sobering reminder that their celebrity was but a fleeting shadow against the backdrop of blood-soaked sand. Moreover, the bonds formed between gladiators and their fans mirrored modern sports fandom. Audiences became emotionally invested in specific fighters, creating a sense of loyalty that could rival any contemporary sports league. Gladiators often cultivated their personas, heroes, anti-heroes, or even villains, engaging in pre-fight theatrics that amplified their celebrity status. A gladiator who displayed exceptional skill or charisma could turn a routine fight into a must-see event, captivating the crowd's imagination. An intriguing yet often overlooked aspect of this celebrity culture was the role of women. Contrary to the traditional male-dominated narratives, women could also be fans, and some even fought as gladiators themselves. While rare female gladiators broke societal norms and contributed to the ever-evolving landscape of gladiatorial fame, their presence in the arena challenged gender expectations and added complexity to the narratives of honor and valor associated with combat. Here's an unusual fact. During certain events, fans would even create songs and chants in honor of their favorite gladiators, similar to the chants we hear in modern sporting events today. These moments of camaraderie and celebration transformed gladiators into living legends, their names etched into the annals of Roman culture. However, celebrity status wasn't solely glamorous. Gladiators were also commodities, subject to the mercurial tastes of the public. A fighter's fame could rise or fall based on a single performance, and the pressure to deliver could lead to tragic outcomes. This precarious existence paints a sobering picture of the darker side of fame in ancient Rome. In conclusion, gladiators were indeed the celebrities of their time, but their fame was intertwined with danger, public expectation, and a constant struggle for survival. They navigated a world where admiration came at a steep price, and their lives were often dictated by the whims of the crowd. This complex complex tapestry of celebrity and violence reveals much about the societal values of ancient Rome, inviting us to reflect on the nature of fame, honor, and the human spirit. As we continue to explore the legacy of gladiators, keep in mind that their stories transcend mere entertainment. They challenge us to consider the very essence of what it means to be a hero. Why did gladiatorial games eventually fade away? This question takes us deep into the heart of Roman society and reveals a transformative period that reshaped the very fabric of entertainment. Most people think that the decline of gladiatorial games was solely due to changing tastes in entertainment, but the reality is much more intricate. As we explore this topic, we'll uncover the complex interplay between religion, economics, and social values that led to the eventual end of these brutal spectacles. Imagine a time when the roar of the crowd filled the grand amphitheater, with gladiators fighting for their lives in front of thousands. These events were not merely entertainment, they were cultural touchstones that reflected the values and priorities of Roman society. However, as the tides of change began to roll in, the very foundation of this blood-soaked spectacle started to crumble. The rise of Christianity played a pivotal role in this transformation. Once a marginalized faith, it began to gain prominence during the late Roman Empire. Early Christians viewed the violent nature of gladiatorial games as morally repugnant, promoting instead the values of compassion and mercy. Here's a strange fact: many early Christians were actually converted through witnessing the brutality of these games, leading them to embrace a faith that preached peace over violence. This shift in moral values challenged the acceptance of gladiatorial combat, putting pressure on emperors and officials to reconsider the ethics of such public spectacles. As the Christian influence grew, so did public sentiment towards more humane forms of entertainment. The increasing number of Christian converts meant that the audience at these games began to dwindle. People started to question the morality of cheering for bloodshed and death. This is where the controversial perspective comes in. While some argue that the decline of the games was a reflection of evolving societal values, others claim that it was merely a matter of economics. The truth lies somewhere in the middle, where moral evolution met economic reality. Economic factors also contributed to the decline of gladiatorial games. The Roman Empire faced significant financial strain during the 3rd century AD, leading to a reallocation of resources. Maintaining the elaborate games became less feasible as the empire struggled to support its military and infrastructure. Additionally, as the economy shifted, the wealthy elite who once funded these games began to invest their resources elsewhere, diverting funds to other forms of entertainment or political gain. During this time, there was a growing popularity for staged theatrical performances and chariot races, which began to capture the public's interest and sponsorship. The decline of gladiatorial games was not an overnight process. It took place over several decades. By the 4th century AD, emperors were issuing edicts that gradually restricted the games, and public support waned. It's important to note that some emperors attempted to revive the games to distract the populace from pressing social and political issues. This illustrates a critical point. While the games were on the decline, the allure of combat and spectacle never fully disappeared. It became a political tool, a method of controlling the masses by providing them with a distraction from the reality of their changing world. As we consider the legacy of gladiatorial games, we must acknowledge how this decline reflects broader societal shifts in ancient Rome. The transition from a society that celebrated violent entertainment to one that sought more compassionate forms of amusement signifies a cultural evolution. It marks a period of reflection on human life, dignity, and the ethical implications of entertainment. In conclusion, the decline of gladiatorial games was a multifaceted process shaped by the rise of Christianity, shifting economic realities, and changing societal values. The games that once captivated audiences began to fade into history, leaving behind a complex legacy that challenges us to think about the nature of entertainment and morality. As we explore the stories of gladiators and their impact on our modern world, let's remember that their lives were not just defined by the arena, but also by the very society that created and ultimately dismantled their world. What impact did gladiators have on modern culture? This question opens the door to a fascinating exploration of how these ancient warriors continue to resonate in our contemporary world. Most people think that gladiators are just relics of history, but the reality is that their stories and symbolism are deeply woven into modern narratives. As we delve into their legacy, we will uncover how gladiators serve as powerful symbols of bravery, sacrifice, and the human struggle, influencing everything from literature to film, and even our understanding of fame. Imagine the awe of the ancient Roman amphitheater, where gladiators fought for their lives under the watchful eyes of thousands. These fighters were more than mere entertainers. They represented the ultimate test of strength, courage, and resilience. Today, they remain icons that reflect both the brutality of combat and the complexity of human experience. Here's a strange fact. The term gladiator comes from the Latin word gladius, meaning sword. This highlights their identity as warriors and entertainers in one. In modern culture, gladiators are often portrayed as heroic figures, embodying the struggle against overwhelming odds. Think of movies like Gladiator, which not only romanticizes their battles, but also explores themes of revenge, loyalty, and honor. The film's protagonist, Maximus, is a perfect representation of the gladiator fighter spirit, facing insurmountable challenges with resilience. This portrayal resonates with audiences because it taps into a universal narrative of fighting against tyranny and seeking justice. But here's a controversial point. While many view gladiators as heroes, they were in fact often victims of circumstance, forced into combat for the entertainment of others. Gladiators also symbolize the darker sides of entertainment, serving as reminders of humanity's fascination with violence. Their legacy prompts us to reflect on our contemporary entertainment choices and the ethics behind them. Consider reality television, where individuals compete in high-stakes challenges for fame and fortune. The parallels between these modern shows and ancient gladiatorial games are striking. Both create spectacles that captivate audiences, often at the expense of the participants' well-being. This raises the question, are we as modern viewers complicit in a system that exploits individuals for entertainment? As we explore the impact of gladiators, we must also acknowledge their role in shaping contemporary discussions about fame and celebrity. Gladiators, especially successful ones, enjoyed immense popularity in ancient Rome. Much like modern sports stars today, they had dedicated fans, received endorsements, and even had their own fan clubs. This phenomenon speaks to the nature of celebrity culture that thrives on admiration and adoration. The gladiator's journey from an enslaved individual to a celebrated figure is a narrative echoed in many modern success stories. Furthermore, gladiators have found their way into various forms of media beyond films. Literature, video games, and art frequently depict these warriors, ensuring that their legacy endures. Books like Spartacus not only tell their stories, but also examine the societal structures that allowed such brutal spectacles to thrive. Video games often let players embody the gladiator experience, allowing them to fight in the arena and experience the thrill of combat. This interactive representation deepens our understanding of their world while engaging us in the action. Moreover, the fascination with gladiators has sparked academic interest in their historical context, prompting discussions around morality, ethics, and the value of human life. Scholars examine the implications of their existence, questioning the societal values that allowed such violence to be celebrated. The gladiators serve as a lens through which we can critique our modern values and entertain thoughts on what constitutes entertainment and heroism. In conclusion, the legacy of gladiators is rich and multifaceted, resonating deeply within modern culture. They are not just fighters of the past. They embody timeless themes of struggle, sacrifice, and the pursuit of glory. Their stories challenge us to reflect on our values and the ethics of entertainment, prompting us to question what we admire and how we celebrate heroism. Gladiators remind us that behind every spectacle, there are real human stories filled with complexity and depth. As we continue to engage with their narratives, we must remember the lessons they impart about courage, honor, and the human spirit's resilience against the odds. What myths surround gladiators? Many people think that gladiatorial fights were purely about death and violence. However, the reality is far more nuanced, involving strategy, entertainment, and even moments of mercy. The misconception that every bout ended in bloodshed oversimplifies the intricate dynamics of the arena. For example, a lesser-known fact is that gladiators could earn their freedom through successful performances, leading to a complex relationship between them and their captors. Let's dive into some misconceptions about these ancient warriors, starting with the belief that gladiators were mindless fighters purely motivated by survival. In truth, many gladiators were highly trained athletes, some even competing in multiple styles of combat. They underwent rigorous training regimes that included not just physical conditioning, but also learning various combat techniques. This leads us to the unexpected idea that these fighters could be strategic thinkers, using their skills and instincts to outmaneuver their opponents. Consider the arena, where a gladiator's life could hang in the balance with each swing of the sword. The audience's reaction played a significant role in the outcome of a fight, often deciding whether a defeated gladiator would be spared or executed. This dynamic creates an intriguing layer of psychological warfare. Picture this: a fighter, exhausted and wounded, hears the crowd's roar calling for mercy. In that moment, their fate rests not only in their own hands, but in the hands of the spectators. This reveals a more sophisticated understanding of the gladiatorial experience that many modern interpretations overlook. Another popular belief is that gladiators fought to the death in every match. Contrary to this view, many fights ended with one gladiator being declared the victor without a fatality. Gladiators were valuable assets to their owners, and the economic implications of losing a skilled fighter were significant. These contests could be as much about showcasing skill and bravery as they were about bloodshed. In fact, some matches were even choreographed to enhance the entertainment value, drawing on dramatic flair and a deep understanding of theatricality. There's a curious fact about the role of the editor during these events. The editor was responsible for deciding the matchups and had the authority to spare a defeated gladiator if their performance was particularly impressive. This reveals a layered system where individual prowess and public appeal intertwine, adding a level of unpredictability that modern audiences might find surprising. Furthermore, consider the popular portrayal of gladiators as purely heroic figures fighting against oppression. While some certainly fit this mold, others were in the arena by choice or as a means of achieving fame and wealth. Gladiatorial combat offered a path to recognition, albeit one fraught with danger danger. This opens up a conversation about the complexities of consent and agency in a world that often forced individuals into extreme circumstances. Debunking these myths not only enriches our understanding of gladiatorial life, but also reflects broader themes in society today. The fascination with gladiators continues to permeate modern culture, seen in movies, literature, and video games. In analyzing these representations, we can draw parallels between ancient Rome and contemporary media, revealing how our views on violence, entertainment, and morality remain remarkably similar. Truth is, gladiators were not simply fighters but complex individuals navigating a perilous world. Their lives were filled with ambition, rivalry, and a constant struggle for survival. As we peel back the layers of myth and misconception, we begin to appreciate the full scope of their experience, one that resonates with the themes of sacrifice, heroism, and the human condition that still captivates us today. This deeper understanding invites us to reflect on our own perceptions of entertainment, morality, and the narratives we choose to celebrate. How have gladiators been portrayed in modern films and literature? It's fascinating to consider that while they once fought for their lives in the brutal arenas of ancient Rome, today they symbolize bravery, rebellion, and even redemption in popular culture. Most people think of gladiators as mere combatants, but the reality is they have evolved into complex characters reflecting societal values and beliefs throughout history. Take, for instance, the iconic film Gladiator, which presents a heroic narrative centered around Maximus, a once loyal general turned slave who seeks vengeance against a corrupt emperor. This movie didn't just showcase the raw brutality of gladiatorial combat, it also explored themes of honor, loyalty, and the struggle for freedom. The film's success reignited interest in gladiators, cementing them as cultural icons. Here's a thought: how many of us have questioned the accuracy of these portrayals? Interestingly, many modern portrayals draw heavily on romanticized ideas rather than historical fact. While the image of the gallant gladiator triumphing against all odds is compelling, the truth about gladiators is often far less glamorous. For example, a little-known fact is that not all gladiators fought to the death, and many had a chance to earn their freedom. Yet this nuanced reality is frequently overshadowed by the dramatic narratives crafted in films. Now let's dive deeper into how these representations influence our understanding of ancient Rome. Gladiators are often depicted as champions of the oppressed, fighting against tyranny. This narrative, while appealing, can distort the complexities of their lives. Many gladiators were actually willing participants who sought fame and fortune within the arena, challenging the simplistic view of them as solely victims. It's a controversial perspective that raises the question: were they heroes or just pawns in a larger game? Moreover, examining other media representations like novels, comics, and video games reveals a pattern of glorifying gladiatorial combat. For instance, the HBO series Rome offers a more gritty portrayal of gladiators, showcasing their brutal training and the stark realities of their lives. This series emphasizes the political machinations that often dictated a gladiator's fate, providing a backdrop that enriches our understanding of the social dynamics at play in ancient Rome. However, the romanticized portrayals can lead to misconceptions. Many people might believe that gladiators lived lives filled with constant glory and fame. In reality, they faced relentless training, injury, and often a premature death. This raises the question of how much of the gladiatorial narrative we consume is rooted in fact versus fiction. While we find entertainment in their stories, it's crucial to recognize the underlying complexities of their existence. To further illustrate this point, consider how the legacy of gladiators has been harnessed in modern culture to discuss broader themes such as power, sacrifice, and the human spirit. Their stories resonate in contemporary discussions about fame and success, reflecting our ongoing fascination with the notion of the underdog overcoming insurmountable odds. In conclusion, the portrayal of gladiators in modern media serves as both a tribute to their legacy and a lens through which we can explore our values and beliefs. They remind us that while the battles they fought were literal, the struggles they represent today delve into our understanding of morality, courage, and resilience. As we continue to engage with these narratives, let's take a moment to reflect on the complexities of the gladiator's life and how their stories shape our perceptions of history and heroism. The gladiators of ancient Rome may have fought in arenas, but their legacy continues to inspire us to confront our own battles today. What ethical questions arise from gladiatorial games? As we explore this topic, we encounter complex moral dilemmas that intertwine entertainment, violence, and consent. Most people think that gladiatorial combat was simply a brutal spectacle for entertainment, but the reality is far more nuanced and troubling. Gladiators, though seen as fierce warriors, were often subjected to exploitation and manipulation, raising significant ethical concerns that echo into modern discussions about consent and entertainment. Let's start with the foundational question: was it ethical to pit human beings against each other in combat for public amusement? Many argue that the sheer brutality of these games cannot be justified, even in a historical context. Imagine a world where lives are reduced to mere entertainment, a chilling thought. Yet, gladiators themselves sometimes volunteered for this life, seeking fame, fortune, and a chance to rise above their circumstances. This reality complicates the ethical landscape, as their choice, however constrained, invites us to ponder wonder the nature of consent in an environment filled with coercion and societal pressure. A strange fact to consider: despite the violent nature of the games, some gladiators became heroes in the eyes of the public. They enjoyed fan following similar to modern sports stars, which raises another ethical dimension: the glorification of violence. The more popular a gladiator became, the more they were seen as a symbol of strength and bravery, often overshadowing the inherent risks and moral implications of their existence as entertainers in a cruel spectacle. This paradox pushes us to question whether society's thirst for spectacle outweighs the value of human life. Furthermore, as gladiators fought in the arena, they were often celebrated for their prowess, yet the underlying reality was one of exploitation. They were viewed as property, owned by wealthy elites who profited from their bloodshed. This raises the controversial point: can true consent exist in an environment where individuals are treated as commodities? The answer seems to lean towards n. While gladiators may have participated willingly, the broader societal and economic pressures made true autonomy nearly impossible. Interestingly, discussions around gladiatorial games often extend beyond historical curiosity. They resonate deeply with modern audiences, particularly in the context of reality television and competitive sports. Today's media frequently sensationalizes violence for entertainment, echoing the same ethical issues that plagued ancient Rome. Just as gladiators entertained the masses, contemporary contestants risk their health and dignity for fame and fortune, leading us to reflect on whether we are repeating the same mistakes. As we delve into the ethical implications of gladiatorial combat, we also encounter philosophical debates surrounding violence and entertainment. Are we as a society complicit in endorsing violence when we consume media that glorifies such acts? This question challenges us to consider our own roles as spectators and consumers of entertainment. What responsibilities do we bear when we engage with content that exploits suffering for amusement? Moreover, discussions around consent and exploitation in the context of gladiatorial games can prompt reflections on issues like animal rights and contemporary sports ethics. The comparisons drawn between human gladiators and the treatment of animals in modern entertainment industries raise additional ethical questions. Are we in a sense witnessing the same cycle of exploitation and desensitization? To conclude, the ethical considerations surrounding gladiatorial games reveal a complex interplay of consent, exploitation, and societal values that resonate far beyond ancient Rome. As we reflect on the legacy of gladiators, it's essential to recognize the enduring relevance of these discussions in our own time. By engaging with these philosophical debates, we can better understand the implications of violence in entertainment and strive for a more ethical approach to the narratives we consume. The legacy of gladiators serves as a powerful reminder of the moral complexities inherent in the stories we tell and the entertainment we choose to embrace. What was the involvement of women in gladiatorial combat? While the image of a gladiator often conjures thoughts of muscular men battling in the arena, it may surprise you to learn that women were also a part of this brutal spectacle. Most people think that gladiatorial fights were a male-only domain, but the reality is that female gladiators, known as gladiatresses, existed and challenged traditional gender roles in ancient Rome. Delve into the intriguing world of female gladiators. Contrary to popular belief, women fought in the arena alongside their male counterparts, albeit in fewer numbers. The existence of gladiatresses raises an interesting question: why would women choose such a dangerous profession? Some female gladiators were indeed slaves or prisoners of war, much like their male counterparts. However, others voluntarily entered this perilous life, seeking fame, fortune, or perhaps even freedom from their previous lives. In the arena, gladiatresses were often portrayed as exotic and alluring, a stark contrast to the raw brutality typically associated with gladiatorial combat. This leads to a strange fact: some historical accounts suggest that female fighters were sometimes pitted against each other, while at other times they faced male gladiators. The spectacle of women fighting added a layer of intrigue and excitement for the audience, but it also underscored the exploitation and objectification prevalent in the games. While the narratives surrounding gladiatresses can be empowering, they also reveal the harsh realities faced by these women. Often treated as curiosities or novelties, female gladiators had to navigate a complex landscape of societal expectations and exploitation. They faced the same dangers as male gladiators, including injuries and death, yet their status in society remained precarious. Controversy arises when we consider whether their involvement in the games was truly liberating or merely another form of exploitation. Furthermore, discussions about female gladiators prompt us to reflect on the broader implications of gender roles in ancient Rome. Women in ancient Rome were generally expected to adhere to domestic roles, yet gladiatresses defied these expectations by entering the arena. This challenges us to reconsider our understanding of femininity and empowerment in a historical context. A rare and compelling insight is the presence of female gladiators in the popular imagination. Movies and media often overlook their existence, focusing primarily on male gladiators. This gap in representation highlights the need to acknowledge and celebrate the contributions of women in gladiatorial history. As we explore the role of women in the arena, we encounter a paradox. While female gladiators fought for their lives and gained a measure of fame, they remained trapped within a system that exploited their bodies for entertainment. This brings us to a significant question: Can empowerment exist within an exploitative framework? The answer lies in the complexities of their experiences, which reflect the struggles and resilience of women throughout history. In summary, the presence of female gladiators in ancient Rome adds depth to our understanding of the gladiatorial games. While they challenged traditional gender roles and sought autonomy, they were also subject to the same brutal realities as their male counterparts. The legacy of a gladiatrices invites us to explore themes of empowerment, exploitation, and the evolving perceptions of women in history. By acknowledging their contributions, we enrich our understanding of the gladiatorial world and the complexities of life in ancient Rome. Their story, much like that of their male counterparts, continues to resonate today, reminding us of the multifaceted nature of historical narratives. How were gladiatorial games used politically? Imagine a world where the fate of thousands hangs not just on the strength of the sword, but also on the whims of a ruler. Most people think of gladiatorial games as mere entertainment, but the reality is that these brutal spectacles served as powerful political tools in ancient Rome. Emperors and politicians harnessed the allure of gladiatorial combat to distract the public from pressing issues, such as economic troubles or military failures. By staging extravagant games, they could redirect the populace's attention and foster a sense of unity through shared spectacle. These events became a way to demonstrate power, with emperors showcasing their wealth and ability to command life and death in the arena. A peculiar fact to consider is that, in a time without modern media, gladiatorial games acted as a form of propaganda, influencing public perception and sentiment in a way we might not fully appreciate today. The games were often designed to project the image of strength and benevolence. For example, when a new emperor ascended to power, a series of lavish games could be organized to solidify their legitimacy and win over the public. This leads us to a controversial idea. Did the sheer violence of these events undermine the very fabric of Roman society, or was it a necessary aspect of maintaining control and stability? Understanding the political nature of the games reveals a complex relationship between entertainment and governance. The Senate, which held significant power in Roman politics, sometimes found itself at odds with the emperor's authority, leading to a delicate balance of power. Gladiators, while seen as mere fighters, became symbols in this larger political game. Our lives were manipulated to serve the interests of those in power. Furthermore, the use of gladiatorial games as a political tool was not without consequences. The public's expectation for increasingly spectacular events could lead to dangerous situations. A strange and somewhat dark fact is that emperors would occasionally orchestrate conflicts with wild animals or large-scale battles to keep the audience enthralled, often resulting in massive loss of life. This raises the question of moral responsibility. How far should a ruler go to maintain their power and to entertain their citizens? In summary, gladiatorial games were much more than entertainment. They were a critical part of the political landscape in ancient Rome. By examining the intricate ties between spectacle and statecraft, we gain deeper insights into how leaders used the arena to manipulate public sentiment, maintain control, and assert their dominance. The legacy of this political manipulation continues to echo through history, reminding us that the boundaries between entertainment and power are often more intertwined than we might think. Imagine a place where aspiring warriors transformed from mere men into legendary fighters, bound by sweat, blood, and an unyielding code of discipline. Most people think of gladiators as simply entertainers, but the reality is that their training was a grueling, multifaceted process designed to forge not only skilled fighters, but also resilient individuals capable of surviving the brutal arena. Gladiators lived and trained in specialized facilities known as ludi. These weren't just any training camps. They were tightly controlled environments that emphasized physical fitness, combat skills, and mental toughness. The training schools became crucibles where young men, some of them volunteers seeking glory, others captured enemies or slaves, were molded into skilled combatants. A little-known fact is that these schools operated under a structured regimen similar to modern sports academies, complete with coaches, rigorous drills, and a system of rewards for outstanding performance. In a typical ludus, gladiators were organized into different classes based on their fighting styles, such as the heavily armored murmillo or the agile retiarius. Each type had its own training methods, equipment, and combat techniques. This specialization ensured that gladiators could effectively counter the diverse tactics they would face in the arena. It's fascinating to consider that these schools also provided medical care. The Romans had advanced knowledge of medicine, and gladiators often had access to skilled doctors who treated their injuries, reflecting the value placed on their training and potential as fighters. One controversial aspect of gladiator training is that the experience was often brutal. Many gladiators endured harsh physical conditions and strict discipline. If a fighter failed to meet the expectations set by their trainers or displayed cowardice in training, they might face severe consequences, such as additional punishment or even being forced to fight against superior opponents. Thus raises a thought-provoking question. Were these men warriors fighting for their lives, or were they essentially prisoners, shackled by their ambition to survive? Training wasn't just about mastering combat, it also fostered camaraderie among gladiators. In the ludi, bonds formed as they faced similar struggles, endured painful training sessions, and celebrated victories together. The relationships built in these schools were vital, as many gladiators would eventually find themselves fighting side by side in in the arena. This aspect of their training highlights a deeper complexity in their lives. While they were competitors, they were also part of a unique brotherhood. Moreover, gladiatorial schools were often located on the outskirts of cities, creating a sense of separation from the civilian world. This isolation allowed for focused training but also fostered a unique subculture among gladiators. They developed their own rituals, slang, and even a distinct way of life, which further enhanced their identities as fighters. This environment cultivated not just skilled warriors, but also individuals with a unique perspective on life and death. To summarize, the training schools of gladiators were vital institutions that shaped not only the fighters themselves, but also the very essence of gladiatorial combat in ancient Rome. They provided a structured yet brutal environment where discipline, camaraderie, and survival instincts converged to create some of history's most memorable warriors. Understanding this aspect of their lives gives us a richer insight into the gladiatorial world and the complexities that surrounded these fascinating figures of history. Did gladiators have a code of honor? When we think about gladiators, images of brutal combat often come to mind. However, many people overlook a fascinating aspect of their lives: the unwritten rules and ethical standards that governed their conduct in the arena. Most assume that gladiators fought solely for survival, but the reality is much more intricate, revealing a complex moral framework that added depth to their existence. Many gladiators adhered to a code of honor, which was developed over time as they forged their identities within the harsh realities of the arena. This code often revolved around principles of bravery, loyalty, and respect among peers. For example, the concept of virtus was significant, emphasizing courage and moral integrity. Gladiators took immense pride in their performance and the reputation they built, not only for themselves, but also for their schools and fellow fighters. Interestingly, there's a strange fact about gladiators that you might find surprising. Some fighters even refused to kill their opponents out of respect, especially if they saw a fellow gladiator as a worthy adversary. This respect for one another demonstrated a level of camaraderie that belied the violence of their profession. But this ethical code created a conflict. Gladiators were often faced with decisions that pitted their moral beliefs against the brutal demands of the crowd and their own survival. For instance, when faced with a downed opponent, some gladiators were expected to kill, while others chose to spare their lives, potentially risking the wrath of the audience. This dilemma raised questions about personal ethics versus public expectation, challenging the gladiators' sense of identity and purpose. An unexpected twist to their honor code was the concept of gladiatorial friendship. Fighters often formed bonds that transcended the competition, supporting each other during training and combat. In many cases, this camaraderie mirrored the bonds of brotherhood, where fighters had each other's backs, demonstrating loyalty that was as fierce as the fights they endured. However, these relationships could also complicate their decisions in the arena. When facing a friend in battle, the challenge of killing someone they respected weighed heavily on their conscience. The influence of this code extended beyond the arena itself, as gladiators often carried these values into their interactions with trainers, spectators, and even the broader society. Their sense of honor helped to foster a reputation that could lead to popularity and fame. Despite the perception that gladiators were mere pawns in a game of death, many were skilled negotiators of their own destinies, leveraging their standing within their code of ethics to gain favor and support. Another lesser-known fact is that there were gladiators who actively campaigned for their freedom. While the harsh reality was that many were enslaved or bound by debt, some used their code of honor and reputation to negotiate their release. They would establish a narrative of bravery and prowess that appealed to patrons, using their standing to secure better treatment or ultimately freedom. This ability to navigate their circumstances illustrates how honor was not only a moral compass, but also a strategic tool in their quest for survival. As we explore the world of gladiators further, understanding their code of honor offers a profound perspective on their lives. It reveals how even in a brutal environment, values and principles could thrive. Gladiators were more than just warriors. They were complex individuals wrestling with ethics, friendship, and personal integrity. Lives were a tapestry woven with threads of valor and vulnerability, giving us a deeper appreciation for the complexity of their existence and the enduring legacy they left behind. In conclusion, the gladiatorial code of honor was a vital component of their identity. It defined their interactions, influenced their decisions, and provided a moral framework that elevated them beyond mere fighters. While the arena may have been a place of violence, it was also a space where values like loyalty and bravery could flourish, creating a narrative that challenges our simplistic views of gladiatorial combat. As we continue to uncover the stories of these remarkable individuals, we must remember that their legacy is as much about honor as it is about survival. What were the training schools like for gladiators? Imagine stepping into a specialized facility where men were transformed into some of the most skilled fighters of their time. Gladiators lived and trained in establishments known as ludi, which were not just places for combat preparation, but also hubs of camaraderie and competition. Contrary to popular belief, these schools were structured environments that focused heavily on developing both physical prowess and mental discipline. In the ludi, gladiators underwent rigorous training that encompassed a variety of combat techniques and strategies. Each fighter was trained in specific styles that corresponded to their individual roles in the arena. spots. Some gladiators were equipped with weapons like swords and shields, while others trained for more specialized forms of combat, such as the agile and light-footed retiarius, who fought with a trident and net. This specialization allowed gladiators to become experts in their respective fighting styles, giving them a tactical edge in the arena. An interesting fact about these training schools is that they were also places of strict discipline. Gladiators were often overseen by experienced trainers, known as doctores, who were usually former gladiators themselves. These trainers used a combination of physical conditioning, combat drills, and psychological tactics to prepare fighters for the harsh realities of combat. Surprisingly, many of these trainers were known for their brutal methods, often pushing fighters to their limits to cultivate resilience and toughness. But what about the friendships that formed in these schools? Gladiators built strong bonds with their fellow fighters, creating a unique sense of community and support. Despite their status as combatants, they often shared meals, stories, and training regiments, developing a camaraderie akin to a brotherhood. This closeness was critical, as they depended on each other not just in training, but also in the arena, where the stakes were life and death. However, this intense environment also posed challenges. Pressure to succeed and the fear of injury or death could create conflict among gladiators. They were often pitted against one another in training bouts, which, while intended to hone their skills, could lead to animosity and rivalry. The competition for recognition and favor among trainers added another layer of complexity to their relationships, creating an atmosphere where trust could be tested. Another little-known fact is that the ludi also served as a form of entertainment for the elite of Rome. Wealthy patrons would sometimes visit these schools to watch the training sessions, where gladiators showcased their skills in mock battles. This not only provided additional motivation for the fighters to perform well, but also established a link between the ludi and the larger spectacle of the arena. In this way, the schools became an integral part of the gladiatorial culture, serving as both training grounds and platforms for public display. While the training schools were essential in shaping the gladiators into formidable warriors, they also highlighted the complexities of their existence. Gladiators were not merely fighters, they were individuals navigating a harsh world, balancing their ambitions with the demands of their trainers and the expectations of society. Understanding the dynamics of the ludi allows us to appreciate the multifaceted lives of these remarkable individuals. As we reflect on the experiences of gladiators in their training schools, it becomes clear that their journey was fraught with challenges and triumphs. They were not only preparing for combat, but also developing the resilience, discipline, and bonds that would define their lives. The ludi were pivotal in transforming ordinary individuals into legends, ensuring that their stories would echo throughout history. In summary, the training schools of gladiators were much more than mere facilities for combat preparation. They were places where camaraderie flourished, skills were honed, and the foundations for a unique culture were laid. Gladiators emerged from these environments as not just skilled fighters, but as complex individuals shaped by their experiences, relationships, and the demands of the arena. The legacy of these training schools continues to resonate today, reminding us of the intricate tapestry of life that defined the world of gladiators. If you enjoyed this epic journey, please subscribe to our channel for more thrilling historical tales. Don't miss out on new videos. Hit the notification bell to stay updated.